Ask the Podcast Coach for September 6th, 2025.
Let's get ready to podcast.
There it is. It's that music. That means it is Saturday morning. It is time for Ask the Podcast Coach, where you get your podcast questions answered live. I'm Dave Jackson from the School of Podcasting.com, and joining me right over there is the one and only Jim Cullison from theaverageguy.tv. Jim, how's it going, buddy?
Greetings, Dave. Happy Saturday morning to you. Sorry we're a little late. It's my fault. I jump in, I get Dave talking, and then all of a sudden we're like, oh, we got to go. We almost sometimes we're like, oh, let's just do the show, just you and me. It's always good to be here.
It's a little more fun with the chat room. And Dave remembered at the last minute I had to format the hard drive on the Roadcaster or the disk thingy, and that took a second. But we're here now, and it's funny because there was a report that came out that we're not supposed to do chit chat, and we just did chit chat, and now we're going to do ads, which are great fun. So
we break all the rules.
We are rebels here, and then we can get to the fun stuff.
But it's coffee. You can't do the podcast without coffee.
You can't do the podcast without coffee. It's ridiculous. So there it is, and that awesome coffee pour is brought to you by the one and only Mark from podcastbranding.co, because, they're going to see you before they hear you. And Mark has done a ton of my artwork, and I love every one of them. Why? Because he sat down with me one-on-one and said, well, what's the vibe of the show? What are we going for? What are we looking for? And then he gives you a couple different options, and you're like, wow, those are all beautiful. And then you pick the one. That's the hardest part, is which one do you pick? They're all good. And he's been doing this for years. He's also a podcaster himself. That is a huge difference between, the guy on Fiverr or whatever. And he's going to sit down with you. Like, he's got the marketing experience. He's been an award-winning graphic artist. And it's not just artwork. This is websites, PDFs, PowerPoint, anything that you're going to put in front of your audience that you want to look good. Well, Mark is the guy you want to talk to. And wait, there's more. That's right. He's Canadian, so he's going to be polite. So if you really need great looking stuff, go over to podcastbranding.co and tell him Dave and Jim sent you.
And of course, big thanks to our good friend Dan Lefebvre over there, based on a true story podcast.com. This week, Young Guns 2. Young Guns. That's
Bon Jovi, isn't it? Yeah.
Those are like the 90 Brat Pack kind of movies.
Oh yeah. Emilio Estevez and yeah. I didn't know there was a Young Guns 2. I knew there was a Young Guns because John Bon Jovi did most of the soundtrack, but that's interesting.
Well, if you want to know, Young Guns 2 with Josh from Wild West Extravaganza is on the podcast. Check it out today, based on a true story. Based on a true story podcast.com. And as always, Dan, thanks for your sponsorship.
Yeah, well, we have a question because we have a thing right above us. If you ever see the video, you can go to askthepodcastcoach.com/question. You can join via audio, via video. Obviously we got the chat room, which is where this is coming from. And so when people come on the show, I've never asked them, hey, is it okay if I use your likeness? And so Ralph is asking, I'm launching my live show, and I wanted everyone's opinion on whether I need to get a signed release for those coming on the live show so I can use the content. To me, I kind of go, it's a live show. I just said at the beginning of the show, live, we've never asked anybody for a release form. I find release forms to be a pain in the butt. To me, it's almost like a prenup. Now, on the other hand, it's a legal thing. So if you want to keep yourself out of legal trouble, but I'm also the guy that somebody goes, hey, I said fart bubble on your podcast 12 years ago. Can you take that down? I'm in between jobs and I'm trying to, I'm just afraid if somebody Googles me, they're going to find fart bubble. And I'm like, oh, okay. And I will take it down. I only have, hundreds of other episodes people can listen to. Right. Jim, have you ever, had,
yes.
Okay.
I have. Yeah, both at work and in my own podcast.
Work.
Said, and we had to proactively, we had a situation where we had to proactively pull one down. But I think it may depend on your net worth. If you're, you may want to get, if you're Jason and Travis Kelsey and you're having a guest on who's controversial, you may want to get a release signed, right? I mean, again, consult. We're not lawyers. We don't play one on TV, and we even didn't stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night. But you can, you just if it helps you feel better sleeping at night that you have releases on people, that then you're like, hey, I've got this thing. I mean, because eventually, right? It's not the signed release that gets you out of trouble. It's your defense in court that gets you out of trouble. And so you know, if it helps you sleep at night, yeah, get them. Dan Lefebvre had said in the chat, like, and this is what I do too. I'm assuming I've asked you to come on my show. You came on my show. You talked on my show. Everything you said is available for release unless you ask me not to, right? And I won't. If you ask me not to, I won't. So I'm kind of with Dan. I'm like, you know, it's not like I cornered you in, you know, in some corner and put a microphone in your face and forced you to talk. So, but whatever helps you, Ralph, whatever helps you sleep at night would be what I would go with.
Well, our problem is somebody will come on and like, hey, it's Steve. Steve, you're on with Dave and Jim. What's going on? Hey, I need to know what to do. I'm like, oh, great. Here he's like, oh, wow, great. Thanks, guys. And then Steve leaves. And I'm like, oh, I forgot to ask him what his website was. And now I got to go find Steve on I think his name was blah, blah, blah show. Wait, there's 26 of those. Any of those, you know, like if you got the time to go chase down somebody to get their signature to where they're going to go, I need to do what? Okay, whatever, sure, you know. So, but
Ralph's saying in chat, right? He's like, how do you do that on a live show? This is kind of what you're saying, right? How do you do it on a live show? Well, we assume you called in. And so, right, we didn't force you. There's no trickery, right? If we wanted to, you could follow up, you know, you could create a process to say, hey, hang tight. We need to get your information. Or you could make sure we get their website when we're done, and you could contact them, right? You could do all that work. Does it help you sleep at night? If it does, do it. If it doesn't, don't.
But like right now, right, we have askthepodcastcoach.com/question, and we're lucky if we get one person to join us live, right? That's fine. Chat, you know, our audience has very clearly said, we're good putting our questions in chat. So the thing is, the more friction, Jeff C. brought this up, the more friction you put, the less people are going to do what you want them to do, which is to come on the show. I mean, there are studies that if you ask for the first name and their email address versus if you ask for the first and last name and email address, they're like, oh, I'll give you my first name, but I'm not giving you my last name. Forget it. And now you don't have their email. So, you know, it's like, well, that's fine as long as you're fine getting fewer email addresses. But if you like, hey, here's, I want you to come on and ask me questions, you just got to answer this 35 questionnaire thing and, you know, tell me all I need is your social security number and your mother's maiden name. They're not going to come on. So it's one of those things where, you know, I'm crazy. I just let people, again, askthepodcastcoach.com/question if you want to join. And we've had, I don't know, in 10 plus years, maybe 2 or 3 people that were a little weird. You know, but live's a different, you know, if you want to do live, read the book Beyond Powerful Radio by Valerie Geller, because she talks about the thing with live is if you're asking for people's opinions, like we just started, it's now betting season. I mean, I'm sorry, football season here in America. And, you know, it's just one of those where people come on, they're like, oh man, you shouldn't have played that quarterback. He's an idiot. This guy's got no talent. Okay, thanks, Jim from Poughkeepsie. I don't know. He had a bad night, that's for sure. Yeah, the guy's an idiot. Shouldn't have played him. The guy has one thing he's going to say. The quarterback's an idiot. You shouldn't have played him. And so you have to be okay with going, okay, Jim, thanks so much. And on to the next caller. Like you have to be fine hanging up on people because they've given you what they needed to say. And some people, when they come on, like, oh, I'm on the show now. I'm going to stay on as long as I can. And so letting people on is different. It's Danny Brown says, end of day as well. Just be nice and remove episodes if it really bothers a previous guest. That's what I do. Yeah. So I maybe I'm naive, and that could be. I'm just not worried about it, and because I don't have a problem pulling stuff down, and I don't talk about things that are going to get people sued. You know, I had somebody I interviewed this week, and they were talking about the female breast, and they used the T word. And I was like, am I going to edit that out? I'm like, because we all know what that word is. We all know what they are.
Right.
And I was like, but I was like, I'm probably just going to avoid that. I mean, last
That's
week,
what your audience expects, right? I mean,
Yeah.
in some circles, that's going to be just fine. And others, if you have an audience, if you've been a PG podcaster for a long time and your audience is depending on you to remain PG, although I think you can say
Right.
that in PG, but you guys know where I'm going with it.
Yeah.
Then don't let it go. I mean, I said on Home Gadget Geeks, I can count on one hand the number of times I've sworn on that podcast.
Right.
And it easily, maybe on two fingers, the times I just don't do it there. That's just, that audience does not want that. They're not.
That's not what they're here for. Yeah.
They listen. My neighbor listens to it with his son Jack, who is 5, and Jack knows me. Like I go across the street. You just gotta know your audience, right? From that standpoint. Stephanie makes a great point.
Oh, she's got a couple great points.
I watch a show where before, that's not the one I was going to read, but that's okay.
But that's a good one too.
I watched a show where before they have callers, they also give my callers' opinions have nothing to do with me or my sponsor's disclosure. And we could do that too here.
Yeah, we could.
Before you bring somebody on, you could say, hey, just as a reminder, the opinions of our guests don't represent Ask the Podcast Coach. It's, whatever, however you want. It's affiliates or whatever.
Yeah. And Stephanie has many, many talents. NosyAF.com. She says, when I'm filming something in public, I have a sign that says, being in this area, you agree to be on video. You can have that on your show or say, before you come up, you are also agreeing to, like we could have here, it says, askthepodcastcoach.com/question. I could have a thing on the bottom that says, joining this call gives you permission. I know on Podpage, we have a guest intake form that you can send to people and they upload their bio and their headshot and all that stuff. And at the bottom, there's a thing that has a link to our release form, but it also says by clicking submit, you are acknowledging that you read the terms of service here and you are giving us permission to use your stuff. So, you could kind of do what Stephanie says there, basically like, hey, by doing this, you acknowledge that. Ralph says, I'm confirmed I might call someone out on something they are doing and they get butthurt and they want to take it out on me later because they perceive I have something. That's
legit. If you're going to call people out, you better get a disclosure. Like I would not get actively hostile towards a guest, and not expect some.
And it could be as simple as, you could go, hey, joining me now is Jim. Jim, how's it going, Jim? And Jim would say,
great. It's going great.
And I go, hey, just before we get to your question, just again, I have your permission to use your likeness in this recording. And you'd go,
sure.
All right, great. What's your question? You could do that. That'd be an easy one. Just make it super quick, acknowledging blah, blah, blah. And then, later if somebody goes, well, you're mean because you said I'm stupid because I did. Well, here's the solution for that. Don't be stupid. I don't know, but I think don't do it would be my advice. If you're this worried about it, don't do it because it's teams that play not to lose usually lose. Like I hate when a team is up by 14 points because, it's betting. I mean, football season. And, you'll be up by 14. So instead of doing what you did that made you win, you switch to a defense and people just start scoring points on you and you lose the game because you're not playing to win. You're playing to not lose. And so if you're worried about, hey, I want to do this and deliver this kind of content, but instead you're focusing on what you're not going to do and are people going to, I just assume my audience likes me. Maybe that's, again, naive because it is the internet and there are bad people on the internet, but I don't know. I can't see we got 19 people watching right now. I'm assuming these 19 people came here because they want to talk podcasting. So I don't know. I probably am naive. I have been Oh man, probably at least I know one. I sold a drum machine to a guy because he said he was a pastor. Showed me his Bible with Pastor Dean on it. And I sold him a drum machine and let him take it on payments. And he paid me one payment, and I never heard from him again. And I even had his phone number. I'd like call him. I'm like, hey Jimmy, you owe me some money. Oh yeah, I'm working on it. And then his number changed because he probably didn't pay his phone bill. And I was like, well, that's what you get for trusting people. So it's try it. As always, do a live show. And that's the other thing too. Like maybe if you do the hey, Jill, thanks for coming on the show. Just quickly, I have your permission to use you in the show. And she goes, yep. And I'm like, great. How did that flow? Did it interrupt things? Did it, was it, because you just don't want it to go oh, we'll get to her question first, and then you start the theme music because you're like, okay, I got to do the disclaimer. The voices and opinions of Jill are not necessarily mine, but they're mine. Oh, by the way, I do have your likeness to do this. And then, oh, I'm sorry, we ran out of time for Jill's question. So you've got to be careful on that. So experiment, but maybe I'm just naive. And that, again, that is probably the case. Dan says, have you ever had anyone ask you to remove them from the podcast version of this live show? Never. Not a one. Not a single one. That's why I'm like, maybe we're worrying about things we don't have to worry about.
It's a good question, though. I mean, it's a really good question.
It is, yeah.
I think you should worry about it. If you're gonna be confrontational on your podcast, you should be worried about it. You absolutely should be worried about it. So that's, when you play with fire, you get burned. And you're opening, if you're going to be confrontational like that on your podcast, you're opening yourself up for that. So I would definitely, in that case, if you're going to be that aggressive, I would definitely get disclosures. I would get sign-offs from people.
Well, that's true.
I may just do it differently.
I did a podcast hot seat. And even though there's a thing that says, if you would like this private and not public, it's an extra $40 because now we're doing consulting. And the whole point of the podcast hot seat is the fact that you're getting discounted consulting, but I get free content. And so later they said, oh, we didn't realize because it was definitely more negative than positive. There are some things they're doing, but there are a lot of things, and they weren't even bad. It was just like, we don't need to hear you thinking through the question. Just get the question. And we don't need to hear the guest thinking through the answer. Just play the answer. It just makes the momentum move much. And they were like, can we not have that go public? And I was like, oh, no, okay. Again, I'm like, but it's, I still got content from it. But, it's had I said, no, you paid you for that, I was just like, oh, yeah, it's fine. Whatever. No big deal. I got content. Steph had asked, what's the name of the book about radio? It's not cheap. It's because it's used in colleges. It's called Beyond Powerful Radio by Valerie Geller. It's a page turner, but it's thick. And this is the new updated version where she talks about podcasting. And to be honest, I haven't read the part about podcasting yet. I probably should. But I have the first version and the new version. And that's the one, if you ever hear me quote the line, there is no such thing as too long, only too boring. That's from that book. Valerie Geller's been in radio and in that whole 9 yards forever. So also, we want to say hi to Mark King, who is mowing his lawn right now. He listens every week. And
neighbor Mark, he's always helpful.
Yeah.
When he gets up early, says, hey, is it 10:30 yet? And then right at 10:30 starts mowing his lawn. Mark, thank you for your thoughtful and well-timed lawn mowing every single week.
Yeah. Ralph says, since I've been doing business coaching, that's a concern. But for me, since I make them look, well, there are ways to do the nice sandwich. Hey, the good news is you're out there and you're trying your business, and a lot of people never make it as far as you do. Now, let's look at some things that could use some polish, and you don't say you're an idiot and you're stupid and you just go, this may not be the smartest choice here because tell me a little bit about your customer. Are they there are ways you can say you're stupid without saying you're stupid, Now on this show, on occasion, if I see somebody say this, where in Reddit this morning, how can I get an idea of how much potential ad revenue I can earn from a good podcast in a niche? I'm trying to budget on how much I can spend on things like graphics and video editing, video editing. And I'm not sure where to start because I have no reference for potential revenue. To me, that's not the right. I mean, I get where the guy's coming from, but there is a bit of a what's in it for me kind of vibe there. And I'm usually like, that's not the people that I see push through the hard part of podcasting are the people that love their topic and they want to serve their audience. Those are the people that make it past that 7 episode slump. And I get this guy's question. He's like, look, I don't want to spend $1 million if I'm never going to make $1 million back. That makes total sense. But there are times when I see people, this guy's not quite as bad. I've seen people say, what's the topic I can talk about that'll take the least amount of time and the least amount of effort and make the most amount of money? And I'm just like, don't start your podcast. That's not the way to go.
But listen, doing a podcast is like starting any small business, right?
Right.
And the answer to his question is called market research. You need to do some market research on your niche. How many people are out there? What are they looking for? What are they willing to spend? How many of them listen to podcasts? Like we pay marketing companies millions of dollars a year to do market research in these kinds of areas. And so the answer to that question is market research. Go out, you're going to have to beat the street to figure those things out. That's how you do it. You do market research. So it could be, listen, you could be going into a space that's underserved and there's a huge demand for it and they all buy t-shirts, so merch will work. But you don't know that you got to go out and do the research in the niche to get the questions. People say, I don't know how to do that. Then I'm like, well, then you can't do it. You got to pay somebody to do it. What if, it's just like me and plumbing. I hate doing plumbing. So I hire somebody to do it because I don't want to, and I want to know. I don't hate it. It smells bad. I'm not interested in it. Right. Don't make me do it. Right. So if you're a podcaster and you have market research questions, you either do it yourself or you hire a firm or a person who can do it for you. It's Dave. What I get tired of is probably too strong of a word, but podcasting's too easy to come to. Anybody can do it. Anybody can get started. And anybody can. It's like a lemonade stand on the side of the road. Like you could set that up in 5 minutes and do it. Is it a viable business? Then they're like, yeah, right. You know what? Could I make a living off selling lemonade out of my front yard? Probably not. Like, how do I know my neighbors are going to drive by? Well, have you asked them?
Right. Do they like lemonade? Would they rather like, something else?
Live in Fairbanks, Alaska, and it's going to be 2 weeks out of the year, right? Those kinds of things.
Or do you live on the most populated street, has tons of cars? We're going to kind of take another tangent here because I want to come back to Ralph. He has a comment here, but I saw this morning and kind of going back to what you were saying, where it's just like, how is this hard? It says, I'm a sound tech with the experience in audio recording and post-production, and I'm really curious about getting into podcast editing. I've tried Fiverr and Upwork. So number one, kudos. You tried something. You got out of your chair. Well, maybe not out of your, but you tried something. Kudos. But they never really worked for me, as it seems like algorithms favor people who already have some complicated jobs and reviews, which feels a bit like a catch-22. To this, I'm now going to call this person out and go, quit blaming other things for your failure. It's too easy to go, well, I do it, but the algorithms. Okay, well, maybe you're not, okay. So I have all technical skills needed to get the job done, but I love to hear how people usually get started and how to find opportunities to work with podcasters without coming off as spammy or annoying. Any tips or personal experiences would be super appreciated. So I was like, number one, let's see, I want people to find me on the internet. Gee, how could I do that? Maybe have a website, and I want them to know what I do. So I don't know, maybe make some bad audio yourself and then clean up the bad audio and put that there side by side, before and after, so people know what you do, and then come up with a price and make a button so they could click on it and order it. And then go to find somebody who isn't, Dave and Jim in their spare bedroom, somebody doing a company show that has really bad audio. Clean up their audio and send them the cleaned up version and go, hey, I downloaded your latest podcast. This is how it would have sounded if I had been your editor. let me know if you'd like more of this in the future, and we can look at what it would cost you. Now, a lot of people are going to go, yeah, we're good, because everybody's like, oh no, I'm good, my content's fine, and but maybe 10% of those people might go, that sounded great. How much does it cost? And so it's going to cost you time, because 90% of those times you edited were just wasted. So that's your marketing budget. Your marketing budget is based on time, not money in this case, because you got more time maybe or something like that. But it just seems like it was like, I don't know where to start. I'm like, well, let's see. If only we had something that I could somehow post it and everyone on the world could see it. And I'm like, oh, like the internet? Like, we all just want to be able to go, oh, here's the easy button. Boop. Oh, look, I'm $1 million. And I'm like, no, it doesn't work like that. So I just see that stuff and I'm like, but Ralph had a point. He said, I'm not afraid. I just know some people suck and are always looking to take something away from someone if they have the chance. This is just reality. Buy insurance. I forget the name of it. I know the name of the company I found that had it was called Thimble. I remember that. But there's an insurance you can get. So if people sue you because, well, if they don't like your glasses, you can get insurance against that. I forget what it's called, but that is a thing. So if you're ever worried about, people coming after you, you can get insurance so that if somebody does that and they win a claim of, $5,000 because you called them a, clown penis, and they're suing you for defamation, your insurance will cover it.
There goes our PG test.
There's it. I know. I said the P word. She also says, Stephanie makes a point. People might not come on live, though, if you're going to be calling them out. Dave Ramsey kind of does this, right? He's like, well, the lottery is just the stupid tax, why are beans and rice and blah, blah, blah. So he kind of just calls them out, but that's his thing. Don't be Dave Ramsey. We already have one of those. So it's, and that I will say that, I have Podcast Hot Seat, no line at the moment. A lot of people aren't willing, either A, don't want feedback, or they're afraid that, a lot of people are like, I'm not going to go on Podcast Hot Seat. You're just going to tell me all the crap I do wrong. I don't want to know that.
I wouldn't do it. I mean, I could have easily done it. I'm not going to do that with you. There's no, I know some people really like that. I don't.
Yeah.
I struggle to listen to programs that are confrontational. I think personally there's better ways to do it, but the people like it or people listen to it, or some people are helped by it. Sometimes people need to just get, the truth, whatever that means to them. And so, yeah.
Well, I mean, look at American Idol. We all used to watch the first 3 weeks because that's when all the people that couldn't sing would come on. And they'd be like, feelings, nothing more than feelings. And they're like, okay, you're awful. I don't know who told you could sing, but you're awful. You sound like a dog in heat that's been, pinched by, get him out of here. Because it was entertaining. So, but nobody likes that except, William Hung.
It works in that situation, and it works in the Gong Show. Like, remember the Gong Show where they would intentionally bring folks on that way? But the audience was set up for it, right? Chuck, what was his name? Chuck. I always say Chuck Woolery, but that's a different.
No, that was Simon Cowell.
Yeah, no. On the Gong Show,
Chuck. Yeah, what was his name?
Yeah, Chuck something. Anyways,
it wasn't Woolery because that was Love Connection.
No, that's the other guy. Yeah, no, but listen, the show was set up that way. Like people came on there. They knew what to expect. So I think, listen, regardless of what you're doing from a podcast standpoint, people listen to your show because they want to confirm their own biases, for one, right? And two, they don't want to be, in a lot of cases, they don't want to be surprised. They're coming to, and they're expecting consistent content week in and week out. Unless you're a show that constantly shocks people. If you're the shock effect, if you're shock and awe, and you're just constantly there could be a group of people that really like every week this is different in some way, right? In most cases, people are coming to listen and not be surprised, right? And that doesn't mean the topics can't be controversial or they can't be done in a controversial way. It's just, what are they expecting to get? And
yeah,
the more consistent you can be with that, the better.
Ralph says the reality is sometimes the sandwich just tastes bad. There is no good parts to point out. And I just don't want to be, basically giving them a unicorns and rainbow answer. Well, if you're going to call them out, it's, pick your poison. And also the other thing you have to keep in mind, because this is not easy, you're going to give people really valuable advice. You're going to tell them exactly what to do, and they will ignore you. And you have to be able to handle that without going, because that's half the fun of coaching is watching people pay you money to ignore everything you tell them. That's the part that is, I think if you read through the lines, I need to ask him, but if you listen to Eric K. Johnson's last show, there was a hint of like, I can't take this anymore. People are like, why is my show growing? I don't know. Maybe the 12-minute thing about your cat at the beginning of the show, when the title was how to make money selling, whatever, and you're talking about Mr. Whiskers, that crazy little rascal. Chris Stone, this is a great bumper sticker right here. Anyone can sell lemonade. Not everyone makes great lemonade. Pressed it. Bravo, my friend. And that's it. We're like, what?
Sometimes great lemonade doesn't have the exposure it should have because it's just in the wrong place at the wrong time. Right?
That's it. Yeah. So Danny's like, hey, forget lemonade. We're going to do a beer stand. Now we're talking. And here in the United States, that'd be illegal. But okay, if that's what you want to do. Although I
think you could do it with a liquor license. You'd have to have a liquor license.
I think there are places in Texas that are like a drive-through, like you can get and crack a beer right in the drive-through. So,
you may be confusing that with buying through, like they have drive-through liquor stores. I don't think you can crack it in the car. I think everywhere in the U.S. that's illegal.
Well, if it's going to be legal anywhere,
I'm not a lawyer.
It's going to be Texas. Yeah. So. Cheers to everyone in Texas. Yeah.
They do have drive-through liquor stores where you can pull up and tell them what you want and they bring it to you. So. Yeah.
Danny says to the person trying to be an audio editor, sell it to the celebrity podcast. Most of those sound horrible. And they do. Yeah. Steph says, I understand you usually feature one call to action on your podcast and in the show notes. For testing, how long would you recommend running it? 3 months, 6 months, or any other duration? Good question. It depends, of course, because it's a podcast answer. So it depends if you're daily, maybe 2 weeks. If you're weekly, maybe 6 weeks. Because it's got to get, I read a report once. They said if you want everyone in your church to hear a subject, whatever it is, you have to do it at least 3 weeks in a row to catch everybody, because not everybody hears every episode. So, but I would start off with 6 weeks. What about you, Jim? If you wanted somebody to, like a call to action, to give it a giant,
Oh, at least 3 months.
3 months? There you go.
I would. Yeah, most listeners, at least, okay, in my experience in the podcasts I've done and the folks that I've worked with, their listeners are anywhere from caught up, but a good chunk of them are 2 or 3 months behind. And so I just like the consistent repetition of brand for that period of time and everybody hearing it. And, a lot of my listeners are weeks behind. So mine would be at least 90 days on something like that. If you can, your mileage might vary. At least 90 days.
Listen to Jim. He has a lot more experience in the land of surveys than I do. So there you go.
Yeah, for sure.
And as for the guy wanting to be an editor, he can make a show out of that. Here's bad audio. Now, of course, he might want to get a release, but he could make a show out of here's the before and after of,
That would be such a niche. That would be there's 10 people on the planet who would listen to that podcast.
There you go.
Right.
But you could call it like how to grow your podcast with better content. And then here's some bad content. Here, listen to this, where this, and then here's that. And A and B, hire me and I will make your content sound amazing. But then you'd have to get a release, because unless it's content you made, you're using other people's stuff. So
yeah, listen, there's a progression in the way podcasting works for most people. Not all people, but for most people. And we start with the how-to ideas. Hey, I have some information. I think some people would find it helpful. I think it would be good if I got this out. So you start being helpful. You start getting out helpful information. But eventually, you've said all the helpful things. You've come up with everything that needs to be done, and you're like, well, but I still want a podcast. So you move from helpful, which you still do sometimes, into opinion, and then you start having opinions about the industry, right? And then you start talking about, okay, that's because those are the things that are changing, or maybe the tools that you're using just aren't, or it's just not as much fun to be in that space any longer, right? And so there's a natural life cycle that happens to a lot of podcasts where they go from, hey, here's how you use this software tool, to here's the business of the software tool. Let's talk about the industry around it, right? Kind of thing. So we kind of naturally morph on those things anyways. It's kind of just a natural, you can't we're a good example of that. We don't spend time anymore digging into podcast platforms to say this and that, you should do this. It's kind of gone the way of, because all that stuff has been done. What's interesting today is talking about the industry itself. That's what people come for. So I don't know. It's just, you gotta, as you're on that journey, as you're creating that, yeah, you could go down that way. It's only gonna be good for a while, and then things change, and your focus changes.
Yeah, so, absolutely. Yeah. I'm laughing. The chat room is doing one of those days where they're just running with the topic here. Stephanie says, I did podcast hot seat, and you didn't come across as mean unless you have somehow turned me. And I'm like, okay. Why back up what I like? Here's why I think this. And there are times when they're like, oh, well, my audience is this. And I go, oh, well, in that case, keep doing this. So, and I forget who said, where do I find Podcast Hot Seat? Podcasthotseat.com. We'll get you right there. Stephanie also went back before when we were talking about giving out your social security number. Tim Bryan says his social security number is 8675309.
Not his. That's Jenny's. That's Jenny's social security number.
Yeah. That's it. Ralph says, yes, people do ignore me, and they pay me hundreds a month to do that. Yeah, that's the head scratcher. Stephanie says, how far in advance do you plan your commercials you use in your show, Dave? They're really pretty cool. I try to make a couple new ones a month, because one of the feedback that I got from my audience is, can you mix up the ads? Like we understand we're going to hear about the School of Podcasting, but when I hear the same ad, 8 million times. So I try to make one or two new a month. And that's just what I'm trying to do, is come up with different angles. Like, oh, let's talk. Like I have one where I talk about your future self. Well, thank you. When you have this skill now, and this skill, and this skill, and these are the skills you learn, your future self, well, thank you, because you did this, your future self. So it's just kind of, that's just me playing with marketing. And so my audience hates the same ad, so I try to do that. And the way it works in Captivate is those are in my library. And so when it comes time, I leave a spot, I leave maybe a half a second for an ad, and I will put a marker there for me, and I'll okay, it's time to put an ad. And when I do that in Captivate, a big old thing rolls up and okay, here are all the ads you have in the library. Which one do you want? I'm like, oh, we haven't played Adam Curry in a while. Let's play Adam Curry, or I'll upload a new one. So it's not really in advance. I got the feedback of, please, we love Mark Lawley from, practicalprepping.info. But if I have to hear that ad again, it's a great ad, because he's talking about how when he joined the School of Podcasting, he had this many listeners, and now he's got this many listeners. But they were just like, please quit giving me the same ad over and over and over. And I totally agree with that. I know in the morning when I make my eggs, the sports station has a bank. And it's as soon as I hear the it's like this, the music, and I'm like, no. And at this point, I can almost recite the whole commercial. And I'm like, do they not have any other ads at this station that they have to play, the local credit union? So that's always fun.
I need to record you for an ad for Home Gadget Geeks, where you just say, Pinky, you're so crazy.
Pinky, you're so crazy. Yeah, there you go.
That's my favorite Dave Jackson thing. I I think about that all the time when I see something. I hear your voice going, "Pinky, you're so crazy."
Well, there's always that one, on the morning zoo, you've got the guy he's the slack jawed. I'm going to say whatever I want because that's the way I am, and I'm just going to tell you, look, you're stupid and you're dumb. Go, and then you've got the dork that's like, don't know football, and then you have the it's either one woman and she's either like. And usually that's it. Usually it's like, ugh, you guys, ugh, or you have a woman that goes, Pinky, you're so crazy, so whatever it is. So
that makes me laugh every time. Does that hurt your voice? Like when
yes,
you do that?
to talk way up here. I don't understand why you guys doing that. That's so crazy. Yeah, that's not a lot of fun. So
that's my favorite voice. I could listen to that all day. This is
I
awesome.
found
Everybody's
myself
like turning down in their car now. They're turning down the sound a little bit. But it's my favorite. It's my favorite voice.
This morning I mixed Lane Staley from Alice in Chains. Like, what would it sound like if Alice in Chains did Old MacDonald? And it was like, Old MacDonald had a farm, because he always had that name. Oh, they come to the rooster. And I was like, okay, Dave, you're weird. Why, I don't know where this thing from, E-I-E-I-O. So that was actually more Axl Rose. But anyway, meanwhile, back at podcasting, here's a fun question from Rich Graham. My early episodes are pretty bad. Should I take them down?
Oh, yeah.
That's a good question.
Yes. You should. If they're bad, take them down.
I almost want to I should make, and I could do this in Captivate. I could make a pre-roll thing that says, this episode talks about equipment. Do not make any equipment purchases based on this episode. It's older than whatever. And I could add that to every show that talks about equipment that's, X amount of old. Because I've had people like, oh, I went out and bought the new Behringer mixer. And I'm like, no. Like, you said that back in episode 18. I'm like, yeah, that was 20 years ago. That's not the best thing to buy. So that's the part. I've taken quite a few down that just didn't have any value. When I remember I interviewed a guy from InnerTube, and I think I interviewed somebody from FeedBurner, all in the same episode. And I was like, yeah, the one company doesn't exist, and the other one I wouldn't recommend at this point. And I was like, that delivers no value. And I still have it. Like, I have the file, but it's not in my feed anymore. So I guess the deciding factor is, because there's a difference between it's not as good as my current stuff and it's bad. Like, there's bad and then there's not as good. Because a lot of times we hear it, like my early episodes are just, the audio quality is bad, and I'm starting and I've got music that's way too loud, so I'm like, hey, welcome to the show. I don't know what's and you can't hear anything, and I'm like, ugh. So I guess my thing would be, if it damages your brand, if it's that bad, because there's not as good, and then there's, oh, that's bad, I might pull it down. Now, if you wanted to, you could re-record it, do episode 36, Dave's version, right? Just like Taylor Swift, just re-record everything if you've got the time. But I don't know.
Just take it down.
Just take it down.
Listen, if you question it, if you listen to it and you go, I take it down. Now, listen, it's your podcast. You can do anything you want with it. But that, if you're asking for my advice, I think if it's not good, I listened to our first episode of Home Gadget Geeks 15 years ago, and it's a little cringeworthy, but then you get into it and you're like, oh, this is kind of nostalgic. Oh, I'm going to leave it out there. So I've gone through that same exercise. At Gallup, we recently pulled down everything that was 2019 and back, just because the information was getting a little long in the tooth, right? I mean, it was just a little outdated. You could kind of tell, especially the videos. And so we unlisted them and took them down, and they're still there. Like, everything's still on YouTube. I can go back to it if I need to, or we just took them out of the feed. I've got everything that we need to go back to get things on. But yeah, if you're really uncomfortable with it, it's okay to pull it down. No one's going to notice for the most part.
Yeah, that's true. Most people don't even know it's there.
No.
And that's why we say, instead of repurposing an episode, like some people are like, hey, we went back to the archives. This is episode 123. I'm like, you can do that, but you could also just say, hey, no new episode this week. Why don't you go to askthepodcastcoach.com/follow, follow the show, and you'll see all of our episodes, and you can see the titles there and pick your favorite or one that you haven't listened to yet. I would, A, you get more followers, and then B, you're probably going to get downloads of your back catalog where people are like, oh, I didn't know about this one. Oh, and this one. And this is where your titles really come into play. So that's another way you can do that as well. Ralph
Ralph says, he sounds great value in going back. And yeah, if you go back, there are, I mean, if you need a pat on the back or you need to see the progress that you've made for yourself, those can be very beneficial and be like, man, I've come a ways since then. Your audience doesn't really care how you've progressed for the most part.
No.
They're not so interested in your growth journey. Sometimes they are. Listen, this is why it's your call. If you want to leave them out there, great. If you, for me personally, and what I think what I would do, if you're uncomfortable with them and you say they're not very good, I'd take them down. Right. There's sometimes, we treat these things like they're the Magna Carta, and you're like, guys, this isn't the Declaration of Independence, right? This is just your podcast. It's not that, and I don't want to diminish the work that we do, because I think we do some good work, but I think sometimes we just give it a little more value than it's worth. Just like move on to what's going on today. And if it's great content that has historical value and you want to leave it out there as long as you want.
Yeah. Rich Graham says, I went back on YouTube to see Baby Jim and Dave.
Yeah.
We had black hair, all sorts of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not sure I had a beard yet in those. I think that was pre-beard days.
That's right.
Yeah. No, right on. We probably give some advice there that we're still giving today, because we get the same questions every week. How do I promote my show? And it's not just Dave's question. Listen, you guys in the chat do this too. Like you ask us questions we've talked about, because we like to continually talk about these principles. It's one of those things that people like to do. You 30 that are here this morning, and whoever's listening to the podcast, you enjoy hearing it over and over and over again. If you didn't, you'd have stopped listening a long time ago. So if you're listening to this, you like that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
For whatever reason. Sometimes I wonder, like, Dave, how many more times can we say this? But we do it in a way that's entertaining and engaging for folks. That's why these 30 show up, although 2 just dropped. They're like, oh, Jim's going on a rampage. I'm out of here. Yeah. I think, oh my God. Oh, stop.
That's it.
I'll
Eject.
hand it back to you, Dave.
Well, and Ralph says, hey, not repeating your advertising over and over. He goes, isn't it the whole repetition? The repetition is schoolofpodcasting.com at the end of it. Blah, blah, blah. It's all there. Schoolofpodcasting.com.
You can run the same ads as long as you want, as long as your audience will tolerate it. Right. I mean,
that's it.
This is where market research comes into play. How is my audience engaging with my ads? And if they're tired of them and they're walking away because your ads are so bad or whatever, they don't like them. By the way, they can be bad ads and still be really effective. I mean, I think about my good friend Dave Garofalo over there at the Scar Authority. His ads are horrific. Dave, sorry, I know you listen to the show, so I'm sorry. Some of them are horrific. They're awesome because they're horrific, right? This is one of those weird things where I can recite 3 or 4 of the jingles in his ads now because they're so awful. They stick in my head.
That's right? It. Now, earworms.
Is that going to turn somebody away from your podcast? Probably. Does he not have listeners because they can't? He runs, 7 or 8 or 9 ads in a 2-hour podcast. He runs 3 blocks of 7 or 8 ads, one after the other, just like old school radio. And all the conventional wisdom, all the podcast gurus would be like, you can't do that. Well, you know what? He takes more money to the bank on those ads than all of those podcast gurus put together.
Yeah, because if they don't work,
those
if those ads don't work, those sponsors don't come back. And if they're coming back, they're still working. So And that goes back to your, if it's working and what's the goal of the show? Oh, to make money selling cigars. Okay, I got my why, and I must be entertaining somebody because somebody's buying cigars, and if they didn't, then it's one of those things like, hey, this doesn't work on paper, but it's working in reality, and that's why I'm trying to come up with an episode. I've been working on it all week to answer the question, and I'm not going to answer it here. You got to tune into the School of Podcasting, but how do you grow your show? And that's the fun part, is there is no one size fits all. What Dave is doing over at Cigar Authority, I'd be like, on paper, that doesn't look like it's going to work, but it works for his audience. And so if I'm a new podcaster and I go, wait, Dave's making bank, I'm going to go in and I'm going to do this and I'm going to have, 4 minutes of ads in the middle. Okay, well, maybe your ads, Bill Burr is famous for his ads. Why? Because he hates his sponsors. He'll just say, well, like, I know I'm supposed to say this and that, but I don't know. I mean, I use it. It's good. It's okay, but I don't know. If they always say, if I don't hit all the points, they're not going to pay me. I don't need this. This podcast has me playing stadiums now. Like, what do I need sponsors for? But if you want some stuff, and he just, and I would not recommend people that aren't Bill Burr to do that. But it works for Bill because, well, he's Bill Burr.
He's Bill Burr, right?
And we're all looking for that paint by number. Oh, just do this. Check. Okay, I've done social. Check. I've done the thing. Check. How come I only have 27 downloads? It's the content, or it's the timing, or it's the competition.
You haven't found your audience, or there's no audience for you.
Yeah, that's true.
Right. I mean, in some cases, you might be, you may go niche down so hard, you just have a few people out there that you need to find, right, for it. Yeah, listen, and then Dave, one more thing on Dave Garofalo. He was an overnight success after 10 years of work, right? I mean, it was
bingo.
Right. I mean, he's been at it a long time. He's also obsessed with that, with the podcast and the way they do it and the things they do on it and the way they do it. He does a ton of things wrong that are right for him, right?
Right.
And he is him, and he's consistently him every single week.
And it's authentic.
Yeah.
Dave is being Dave.
No, for sure. It is. And sometimes it's frustrating, and sometimes it's sometimes I just like him more for some of the things,
right.
Some of the things he does. But he brings his whole self to that show every single week, and he does a ton of work for that show. Like, he comes to every single show with pages of notes of things he's going to talk about. And so it's not like he's just showing up. All right, let's just do this thing. It's Saturday. We're just going to show up.
Right.
And I'm hoping my guest can carry this. No, he's got pages of notes that he's ready to go. He's got 2 hours of content to fill, and he is grinding it out. So there's a situation. I mean, he's successful because he has worked hard to make it successful in what he's done. He's broken all the conventional wisdom. He doesn't do anything. If he listened to the podcast gurus like us sometimes and actually did that stuff, I don't know if he'd be in his, right. What he's doing. I don't know if he'd have been as successful if he would have listened to us.
I just finished a book that was about the marketing strategies of Taylor Swift, and time again, she was like, no, we're using my songs. Like, I wrote, and they like, teenagers don't want to hear about this stuff. And there's no famous teenage, they wanted her to wait till 18 to do this. And she was like, no, I'm doing this now and I'm using my songs. And all the music gurus are like, yeah, that's probably not going to work. I think it worked, so there are times where, Ralph says, be careful telling anyone their content is not great. Oh, I will say that every day. I said at the beginning of this show, we are doing the beginning of this show wrong. And then there are people that go, I don't care. This is how we open the show. This is why we do it. If you don't like it, go to podcastaboutpodcasting.com. There are plenty of other shows to listen to. This is me being me. And you either like me or you don't. If you don't like me, see ya. Thanks for giving me a shot. If you hate the show, please tell 2 friends. It's just, it's the way it is.
Right on.
It's we have a question I want to hit, and I do want to hit this one, though. Randy says it's so much easier for persons who are famous from getting something. Yeah, but here again, do not blame your failure on someone else. That oh, it's the algorithm. Oh, it's this. Well, okay. It's easier for that, but you know what? It's not, that just means you got to work a little harder. Like right now, I could say the Akron podcast isn't growing. Well, you know why? Because A, I don't put out content consistently. I'm not interviewing local business owners. I haven't put out any signage in downtown Akron. And I could sit here and go, oh, it's, you know what? I need a celebrity. No. Go do the work, Dave. You said you wanted to do this. Go do the work. Quit whining and complaining and go do the work. To me, I'm saying that to me. So I see a lot of people like, well, what do you do for promote? Oh, I promote it on Twitter. Okay, where's your audience at? I don't know. Well, who is your audience? I don't know. Go do the work.
Yeah.
Stop it. So
you know what you should do? For the Akron podcast, you should, by the way, Akron is coming to Nebraska. The football, your college team is going to be playing here tonight, 6 p.m. So technically, we probably shouldn't even be talking to each other.
That's it.
Because we should be fighting. But you know what you ought to do? You ought to run for mayor of Akron.
Oh, no.
Not intending to get it.
Oh,
think of all the publicity you would get for being on the ballot and for like people.
Yeah, there you
like,
go.
David
Jackson.
Who is David Jackson? And wasn't he that country singer years ago? No, that's Alan Jackson. But like there would be, you ought to run, or city council, or one of those where you get your name on the ballot. Because think about all the free advertising, advertising you would get. You don't have to win. It's going to cost you money, but any advertisement costs you money for a local podcast.
Yeah,
I think you should do it.
Well, Joe Walsh and Alice Cooper would run for president just about every 4 years. They would throw their name in. They'd get a little exposure. They'd play one of their hits on the radio, and you were back in it. So. But speaking of having too many commercials, it's time for us to thank our awesome supporters. You can be one of these awesome supporters, and you can give me money and tell me to go to HE double hockey stick because I said your show was bad. I know. Double hockey stick, I say, because this show, if you want to make your show better, we're not just about, launching and growing. We're about making your show better over at the School of Podcasting. Use the coupon code COACH and get instant access to courses, coaching, and community. And if you go to askthepodcastcoach.com, that's Podpage. And I saw somebody this week in Podpage said, hey, I heard about this on Ask the Podcast Coach. So if that was you, thanks for listening. And you can try Podpage by going to trypodpage.com. And if you need more Jim Collison, and who doesn't, just simply go to the one and only theaverageguy.tv and check out Home Gadget Geeks. And again, I still think I'm going to use vidIQ. I put this in here, like I'm going to use vidIQ. I have not logged in about a month. So I'm not going to say if it's good or I've heard good things. That's why I bought it, but I haven't done there yet. And now it's time for everybody's favorite segment, which of course is the Wheel O' Names. And so will it be Ross Brand or Shane Whaley or York, or Randy, or who is the airplane guy? Oh, Max. Yes. I was like, okay, I know it's a cool name. I remember what it is. Here we go. We're going to find out. I spin the wheel. It goes round and round. And the winner is almost Ralph. Could be Craig. It looks like it's going to be Craig. If you like AI, you got to go over to AIGoesToCollege.com. Sign up for the newsletter. He had a really great article as well as a great podcast. Holy cow, as we're doing this, somebody wants that spin to go over to Grit and Growth Business because holy cow, Jim, did you see this come in? We got one of these. We got a super chat. That means I got to hit this. Where are we here?
I released my first
That's episode. Not it. That's not the air horn. I don't know what that was. There we go.
There it is.
Thank you for that. Ralph sent us $50. Holy cow. Here's something in honor of your 1000th show, my friend. Thank you, Ralph. Yeah, next episode is episode 1000 of the School of Podcasting. So thank you for that. And, if you want to be a supporter, it's super simple. You could be like there it is, Aviation News Talk. That's Max's show. All sorts of fun shows here that are supporting the show. I deeply appreciate that. Makes me get up on the Saturday morning I'm like, why do I do this show? These people get me out of bed on Saturday morning. Thank you for that. And if we're saving you time or money, maybe we're saving you a headache, maybe we're entertaining you as we educate you, well, then maybe you can consider, you don't have to spend the $20 to get on the Wheel of Names. You could sign up for as little as $5 a month. Go to askthepodcastcoach.com/awesome. And we did have...
Are you guys really the Akron Zips?
The Akron Zips. Yeah, and we have
What is a zip?
Who knows? We have a kangaroo. We have a kangaroo named Zippy. He's our mascot, but yeah, and you're going to win because we suck. If you're in Northeast Ohio,
the spread is 34 points. I've never seen that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just, I don't even follow it.
96.4% chance that Nebraska wins.
Gee. Yeah.
Oh, how bad would it be if they lost? I'd have to come and grovel. Gravel or grovel? I think it's grovel. I'd have to come and grovel.
Yeah, gravel is a bunch of...
the link in the chat, by the way. If you want to follow along the battle of Ask the Podcast Coach as Nebraska plays Akron tonight. That's at the Akron Zips, 6:30 p.m. Central.
Yeah. Randy, about that thing about having a celebrity, it's easier. It's easier, but it's not guaranteed. Hence Larry King's podcast, hence Amy Schumer's podcast, hence Kathy Lee Gifford's podcast. You can't just go, hey, I'm a celebrity and I'm not going to plan anything and we're just going to talk because, I'm famous. Okay. So my cat chewed on the couch and then my husband asked for a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, or my wife is complaining about my card playing again. Okay. What's in it for me? What is the value except maybe getting a glimpse into a celebrity's life? But I remember once I was listening to Mark Maron interview a comedian. They were talking about, remember over in the Chuckle Hut? And then I had to play the Laugh Factory. And oh man, Harry at the Laugh Factory was an idiot. Oh yeah. And you had to put up with the closet. And I'm like, I have no idea what this is. And I'm like, why am I listening to this? This is not making me laugh, cry, think, groan. It's educating me about the Chuckle Hut, but I don't think I'll ever be at the Chuckle Hut. And I was like, I'm listening to this because they're celebrities, but they're wasting my time. And I hit stop. So it's not a...
Well, you're not their audience though. You're not the core, right? And some of the stars, so to speak, have much higher standards on what the download numbers need to be for it to be worth it to them.
Yep. So
they get in there and it's like, oh yeah, if I'm not 10,000 podcast, or if I'm at 10,000 downloads out the chute, I'm not doing this very long.
Right.
And in a lot of cases, wasn't their idea anyway, right? They had a publicity team that said, hey, it'd be great. You started a podcast because everybody started a podcast. I don't know why they talk that way, but that's the way marketing guys talk. Well, if you started a podcast, everybody would start a podcast. And they're like, oh, okay, I'll show up for it. And they're not. Their heart's not in it. They're doing it for money. And that's okay. Like they can do it for money because some of them are doing really well with it. I mean, who would have thought? It's easy in hindsight to look at Joe Rogan and say, oh yeah, of course he was going to be successful. I didn't like the early days of his podcast. I was like, what are people seeing in this? Like, it's horrible. His podcasts are terrible, in my opinion, right? I don't listen to him. I don't like him. I don't like his style. I don't like what he does. I don't like the way he does it. It's just not my preference. Doesn't mean it's wrong. It just means I don't like it. And so I thought, why is everybody watching this? I don't get it.
Right.
And yet everybody did, including all my kids who were like, Dad, why are you not listening to Joe Rogan?
Yeah.
Come on, you gotta talk about pressure from a fan base. Like all of my kids were like, Dad, you're a loser for not listening to that, right? I got some peer pressure from my own kids.
Well, I was like, here's the thing too, like Joe Rogan, I would also say Joe Rogan is an amazing podcast waiting to happen. And what do I mean by that? I'll give you a classic example. He interviewed Julian Lennon, John Lennon's kid, and an hour into the show, they finally talked about something that I would deem that something like he talked about how his dad said, hey, if I ever leave this world early and I want to communicate with you, it's going to be via a white feather. Very weird thing to say to your kid. And an hour into Joe Rogan, after hearing where the best spaghetti is in Spain and the best I don't care and the best whatever, like who cares? they come up with this white feather story. And I'm like, I was literally getting ready to hit stop because I'm like, this is just wasting my time. Like, I like Julian Lennon. I'm glad to hear he's doing okay, but I was like, why did I have to wait an hour? Because this is something I would tell other people. And there is something about that, like having that information. I got to get the address here. The Josh Liston did a show called Sake This, which, if you're a dumb American, looks like Sake This, S-A-K-E this. But they talk about weird things that are happening in Japan. The primary focus of the show is Japan. And Japan has invented a human washing machine. Basically, it's like he said, if you take like an Apple HomePod and just make it 6 feet tall, it's basically they've redone the shower. And it's weird. And he was talking about, would you get in one of these machines like naked? And, and I was like, well, that's weird. That's something I might talk to somebody about. They had a bunch of these weird things that are going on in Japan versus, did you know that, Donna Summer's name is spelled wrong? It's supposed to be a U, not an O. I'm like, okay, it's trivia. But I'm not going to go, did you guys know? Did you hear? Like, what's going on? There's a thing that you hit a certain nerve that people will, go.
Yeah.
So
and they do have an advantage. Listen, they do have an advantage. They have name recognition. When, Jeff C. just said, he was like, why is this guy from News Radio and Fear Factor? You knew 2 places where he was from. Like, you knew the name. Now, and him doing a podcast, like, okay, now you have to kind of like, is that what I want? But as soon as you heard Joe Rogan, you were like, oh yeah. I mean, in the UFC crowd. Now, listen, Rogan put a lot of time in. He's worked hard in his career. I mean, Fear Factor was a lot of work. Like, it's not like he showed up for a 15-minute recording. I didn't know this. Ryan Seacrest, right, has taken over for Pat Sajak on Wheel of Fortune. Yeah. And last season, and they're coming up on their second season. They record 6 of those a day for like, I don't know, 2 months.
Oh man, can you imagine? You're like on game 18, day 3. You're like, okay,
grinding it. Yeah,
pick a vowel. I know. Yeah,
just grinding it out, and you're like, Seacrest is another guy who, has put the work in. Like him or not, the guy has done a ton of work. Right, to get his name out there. He's done a lot of things to have that. So they've been given a privilege and an opportunity that most of us don't get. Yes. So they're gonna have a jump on things like that. The question is, can they start it, be successful, and continue it for whatever length of time? This is the other thing. I think sometimes people think success is a podcast that never ends. Now, just you and I have kind of done that. We've chosen to be in the space. We kind of do that. But
S-Town is a great example. Yeah, there's a great show called S-Town, and I think it's 7 episodes. And they said in episode 1, this is episode 1 of a 7-part series. Like, it wasn't meant to go on forever, and they ended up getting sued, which was kind of fun. But it was a really popular thing because they outed somebody in the podcast who didn't want to be out, and so they got sued. Speaking of, maybe things you shouldn't say on your podcast.
Well, and maybe things they got sued because they're famous. Like, we say this all the time. Be careful what you wish for in getting famous. Right. Because as soon as you get famous, you're a target. Oh, yeah. Right? And I could say something today that to one of you that I'd probably get away with. But if you knew my net worth, it's not, by the way. If you knew I had $1 billion or even a multi-million-dollar net worth, when I say that, you might change your mind. Yeah. Because you're like, take this guy to the bank.
Well, Cardi B, I think it's Cardi B's in a trial right now because she was pregnant. She told her OBN, like, hey, I'm Cardi B. Like, I don't know if she was trying to keep the pregnancy kind of secret or whatever, but she's like, I'm going to pay you extra. I'm going to come in on Sunday. I don't want anybody but you there. And she shows up and there's a female security guard. And she's like, oh my God, it's Cardi B, and starts filming. And Cardi B's like, no, don't do this. And apparently things got a little heated. And according to this woman, her fingernail, Cardi B's fingernail, like slashed her face. And they have pictures and you're like, I do not see a slash anywhere of any type. but she's in court now, and she's suing Cardi B for like $25 million or something ridiculous. Why? Because she's Cardi B and she's got money. So yeah, I totally get that point. Randy says, I'm just a one-man show. They do have resources to get people and consultants. Joe Rogan has a team of 2. Mark Maron has a team of 2. Now granted, they're Mark Maron, they're Joe Rogan. They have managers and they're connected.
For the podcasting, Rogan's got a firm that represents him from a PR standpoint. So let's just be really clear.
Right.
He has an agent. They have teams of people. I mean, so yes, for the podcast, it's a team of 2.
Yeah.
But his engine is much bigger than.
But even this, think about it. Mark Maron started his podcast because he couldn't get a gig anywhere. His comedy career was over. And the reason he got popular is his show was like, wait, what? And it was amazing and people wanted to listen to it. So it's, it's hard. I think it's hard. I'm not saying celebrities. Here's the thing. Celebrities they have an advantage in that I will click play once automatically.
Yes.
Now, if it's good, I will click play on the next episode. Most of them, I do not. Amy Poehler's first episodes were horrendous because she didn't know what she was doing. I'm like, did you not do a dry rehearsal somewhere? You're an actor. Didn't you do a dress rehearsal? And you could just tell she was, now she's much better now, but it's still her talking to her friends about, what it's like to be famous and blah, blah, blah. And it's, it's insights, but.
Well, that's what we do. We just spend all the time talking about what it's like to be famous, you and me. We do that all the time. Who would do that?
I can't even go to the grocery store. Yeah, sure.
I know. I have to order everything in. I have a gate. I live in a gated
community. Sure, that's us. Jeff C has a great point. He says you can look to successful people's podcasts for best practices, but you have to navigate it for your own audience. Audiences and algorithms have changed since those gurus started. Absolutely. I'll give you a preview of the School of Podcasting. I have one little story. My brother, when he was probably 16, got a ceramic frog, and he liked it. And somebody said, "Oh yeah," and he got a little patch of a frog and put it on like some little fishing hat. And all of a sudden, it went out unto the world that Doug likes frogs. Now, he thought the thing was cute, and he had the one little thing, but he wasn't like, oh, my God, I love all thing frog. For 2 years, everybody bought my brother a frog, not asking him, hey, are you still into frogs? Because he would have said, what do you mean? I've never really been into, like, they are not my thing. I bought this one and put one on a hat. But without checking with your audience, hey, is this what you still want? You end up with, 3 years of frogs on top of your TV that you kind of didn't want, but everybody thinks you love frogs. It's like, no, you need to go back and check the temperature of your audience and see, like, hey, are you still doing this kind of thing? So it's tricky.
What happened? We went from like 20 to 30 to 40 up in the live. We're at the end of the show. Welcome everyone. Welcome to the. We're famous. So
here's a fun question. This one's really fun, Jim. Like we'll have to watch to, but it's a good question. When something terrible happens, like the shooting at the Catholic school in Minneapolis a week or so ago, should it be mentioned in the recordings you're doing at the time or just ignore it and carry on? To this, I tip my hat to the one and only Johnny Carson, who, because of the gray hair, I grew up watching. He was one of the early hosts of The Tonight Show. And people would say, why don't you take a hard stance? Because now, like, Stephen Colbert is super left wing and Jimmy Kimmel's, and all these guys are really talking hardcore politics. And Johnny just said, that's not what they're here for. He goes, I'll talk about the news and I'll make fun of the news. He goes, but we're not really here to we're here to escape the crappy things that are happening in the world. So for me, I know last week we were headed right towards Cracker Barrel. And I said, do we want to? And I was like, you know what? We're not here to talk about Cracker Barrel. And we can talk about rebranding if you want, but it's like, nah, and I was just like, nah, I just steered right by it because that's not what people are here for. And so I am a person. Now, if I wanted to say, hey, before we start today, I just want to say, thoughts and prayers go out to everyone in Minneapolis that's doing with that. That's a horrible thing. But when you talk gun control, right, you got the people that are like, guns don't kill people, people kill people. And then you got the other people that are like, you shouldn't be allowed to have a squirt gun, So welcome to a topic that you're going to just split your audience on. So I tend to just steer away. Jim, do you ever do anything like that?
Sometimes we have to, sometimes we have to have those conversations and you have to talk about it. I think the answer always is it appropriate for your audience, for what you're trying to do? This may be one of those situations, by the way, where, you have to be very, very careful when you address this. Right.
Right.
So, you have to think a lot before you say, right. But, I think we have to, think this may be something we do, we air and then we take it down. That's a possibility. Like later on, you're not going to take that down or you're not going to leave it up, or maybe you do leave it up. There are, we're coming up on the anniversary here this week. Is it this week? 5 days from now, 9/11, right? 24 years ago. And, I made the decision that's my live Thursday night live. I could have moved it. I canceled the show for 9/11. I just was like, I'm not feeling like it's appropriate for me to be out podcasting on that day. That's me. Other people comfortable with it. They had no problem with it. A lot of people never would have even known. They would, that's right. It is 9/11, right? That was me. That was my conviction in my thoughts of it. That's what I decided to do. Have I podcasted on 9/11 in the past? Yes.
Yeah.
So it's not like I'm trying to make some statement with it or whatever. So I think as far as mentioning those kinds of things, sometimes you need to, and it's just part of it.
Right.
You just have to.
If it's completely taken over the news cycle and, that whole 9 yards, and a lot of it is just, it's weird because if you don't mention it, then maybe you might look cold-hearted. That like, I can't believe you didn't mention the hurricane that took out,
No, for sure.
And so I get that. It's just one of those, I think Dan says, I think it depends what you say, because opinions are fine, but something, misinformation can be harmful. I think I'm on the record that murder is bad. I think I've said that before. I generally am not pro-murder.
I would agree with you. With you.
So it's just what's sad is that that's just part of society now, and everybody's like, well, thoughts and prayers. And I'm like, well, so far those aren't working. Jeff says, I go to Cracker Barrel for the plate of carbs, not the politics. So,
oh man,
yeah. So I that might be just a follow your heart kind of situation. And if you decide to say something, just think about it. Because, like when Ozzy Osbourne died, I didn't feel like doing a podcast. That was part of my childhood. So I instead did a podcast about here are 11 things you can learn from Ozzy Osbourne, because I felt like talking about Ozzy Osbourne. I'm like, okay, but my audience is like, I was more of a Tiffany, Debbie Gibson person growing up. And they don't want to hear about Ozzy Osbourne.
Deborah Gibson.
Deborah, yes.
Deborah Gibson now, not Debbie. That's when she was 17. She's Deborah. Get it right, Dave. Jeez, stop being insensitive to her. Listen, I apologize to my Canadian friends all the time. I have a lot of Canadian listeners, and each week I start with, I'm very sorry that I know we're in a little bit of a tiff. It's not you, it's me. And I just apologize to our Canadian friends. By the way, if you're in Canada right now, sorry. Dave and I are both here in the U.S. We're having a little difficulty right now. But
are we having it? See, this is the joy of not watching TV.
No, it's kind of past. I mean, no, it hasn't. It hasn't. It's a little. It's of course that's a joke, but some people actually may not see that as a joke. So if I've offended you, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Here is one that. Oh no, I'm looking at. I thought this was a question. That's my talk for. By the way, if you wanted to speak at Podfest, you missed the deadline. It was last night at midnight. Luckily, I saw that very late, and I'm like, where are they announcing this? And I just happened. I was like, oh, tonight's the deadline. So I submitted a bunch of stuff to Podfest. But in general, the Podfest group and podcast movement groups in Facebook, I think they lost some moderators. Because there's a lot more self-promotion going on in those than there used to be, where people are just like, hey, here's my artwork and here's my show. And I'm like, here's a quick question. We can throw this in because I see we got 9 minutes. What are your opinions on the social media presence for podcast? Should I make accounts for my podcast? Yes. Which are the most beneficial? Yes.
Depends.
Yeah, which one? Do the one you like doing. Like, I'm a Twitter person and a Facebook person. So, you know where I put my stuff? Facebook and Twitter. I'm trying to do more LinkedIn stuff because my survey said my audience is on LinkedIn. So I need to do more stuff over there. But in general, whichever one you like doing, do that one. Because otherwise, if you hate doing it, you're going to quit doing it. Yeah. Randy said, isn't that all Facebook groups on, basically they're all kind of, getting a little more. I saw where somebody did a live stream into a group. I was like, how did that not get blocked? But in terms of social, if like all I talk about is podcasting, so I just point people at, I think I'm David Jackson on Twitter because, and all my podcasts are about podcasting. So I have that common theme. But if I did a podcast about, I don't know, cross-country ballroom dancing, I would probably not put that. I would make it its own social thing because typically, podcasting people don't want to know about cross-country ballroom dancing. So, but just also keep in mind that social is, for me, the thing we learned from the whole Taylor Swift experience with her coming on The Heights is it's a great use it to promote an upcoming episode. But in general, I don't know that social, it's weird. I saw there was a report that came out and they said social was the number one way people discover podcasts, followed by family and friends. And I'm like, I'm going to put money on the social that people discovered a podcast on was from a DM from their family and friend on, like somebody DM me on Instagram and said, oh, you should watch this show. That would be it. I've never seen social outrank. In fact, I've heard multiple reports that posting on social is almost a waste of time. It's just a branding thing to keep your brand in front of people. But in getting people to stop the scroll and go listen is next to impossible. So I don't know. Jim, your thoughts on social?
Go where the people are. Give them a try. There was a question. Do you have dedicated social for the Akron podcast for your local one?
I do. Yeah. And so, that one,
does it work? Do you get much engagement on it?
It does a little, because what I do is when I post that, hey, this week we talked about so-and-so, I will tag, if it's a business or a company, or I will tag those people. So I'm just trying, and that's the whole point of that show, is to let people in Akron know you have a podcast consultant in your backyard. And so that's the whole point of that. So I'm just trying to get those people, and also to spotlight things that, like when school went back in session, there was a bunch of places where you could get free haircuts and free school supplies and things like that. So I just wanted people to know, hey, this is here, and you're not going to see this on, the Cleveland news station. So that kind of stuff.
I have a buddy of mine, Andy Sokolovich. He's out in Clinton, Iowa, and Andy's a good friend. I follow his social stuff. They do a Clinton, Iowa business podcast that he has done now for, I don't know, 10 years, maybe 10 years. I've watched it go through various iterations of them trying different things. And lately, over the last couple months, or maybe last year, they have tried several iterations of their studio, the way it's set up. And he does a camera, they're sitting around a table. He's got podcast microphones. It looks good. Podcast microphones. They got just a single camera coming down, and it's them just talking about Clinton, Iowa. And so they bring local business people on, and he's, I think from the outside looking in, this is probably the most success I've seen this podcast have, just from a sheer content and number standpoint. I don't have any access to the numbers, so I don't know for sure, but it appears that way. Dave, you've got that local podcast too. I mean, Andy has found what's worked for Clinton, Iowa.
That's it.
Right.
A member of the School of Podcasting, Kim Newlove, does The Pharmacist's Voice, but she also does the Perrysburg podcast. And what's fun is she just taught a podcasting class in Perrysburg, Ohio. And one of the people in her class is someone from insert really small city in Ohio here. And the guy that ran the paper had to shut it down. Because I don't know about you, but now it's like the Akron paper is like, oh, here's the Beacon Journal, here's the pamphlet. And that used to be, I used to deliver that, and it's really, like, even the Sunday paper is small. And so the local paper is like, yeah, we kind of had to shut it down because nobody reads the paper anymore. But the guy wants to start a podcast. And so she's probably going to get to help that guy to start a hyper local show. So it's different. That's why I keep doing it. I wish I had more time to do it. I just don't. And I'm reaching out to another local Akron kind of newsy kind of thing to go, hey, you have content, I have exposure. Let's put these two together. I'll promote your thing. You can promote my thing. It should work. So we'll see.
The danger of local, Dave, and you should know this, is you live close to the people who are your listeners.
Oh, yeah.
Right. I mean, it's like we could say something here, and I'm pretty sure I don't have too many. There might be one or two local folks who listen to this podcast, but when you're doing an exclusively local podcast, if you get controversial, you live with those people. They're in your town.
I walked into a Chipotle and there were 4 cops, and I was like, oh, I hope they don't listen to the show, because the Akron Police Department has a problem of, shooting innocent people or slightly innocent people. Mm-hmm. We seem to have, now there are a lot of great, obviously people, but there is some time, allegedly shooting people that are, So it's one of those, and I kind of point that out, and I have a map I have a map that you can look at all the shootings in Akron, and I'm like, nobody's going to go to the zoo. Why? Go look at the shootings map. I'm like, that neighborhood is not friendly to outside people. So
you live in those neighborhoods. So, think before you think, oh, you know what, maybe I'll really niche down and do a local podcast. Well, hey friends, those are your neighbors.
Yeah.
And
be careful. Be very happy and rainbows, whatever Ralph was saying earlier. Puppy dogs and
rainbows, fairy dust, and unicorns is what I like to say.
Here's a fun question as we start to wrap up. Although the podcast coach in me just said, never announce that you're almost done, because there are some people that just hit the okay next already. So Randy says my hosting site offers AI editing, and they cut off one of my shows way short. Are they going to get more restrictive with content and topics? Most of them have a dial. Like when I use Descript, I go remove and that's it. Those are our favorite crutch words, and it does a good job of that. Now I'm using Buzzsprout's thing where it removes ums. It doesn't remove the other one, so it's not quite as that. But I saw where it could remove the fluff, and that's a subjective term. Remove the fluff. So I would be careful with that. And that's the thing with all AI. Try it, see how it does, and if it's doing things like cutting your show short, you're like, okay, I guess I'm not going to use that, or maybe I need to do a better prompt, or however that's working. But, terms
and conditions, you should be looking at your host provider's terms and conditions for their AI. I mean, they may not say anything in them and still be doing it, but you definitely, and this is the great, it's the great thing about podcasting is it's open. So if you're there and you're being restricted, and you can do your own thing, you can do your own hosting. Today you could create your own AI.
That's it.
So.
Dan's got the best idea ever. Do a local podcast about a city on the other side of the world.
Maybe I should do the Akron podcast and you do the Bellevue, Nebraska podcast, and we could,
There you go. Ralph wants to know, is there an AI tool that removes bad content? Descript is supposed to. I have not tried that feature. I like that one up to a union. Ray just wants to know, can we start over from aroundthelayout.com?
Sorry.
He missed it, but that's all right.
We recorded it for you.
Yeah, give me a couple hours. It'll be up. Jim, what's coming up on theaverageguy.tv?
Dr. Brian Freelander. He is a assistive tech specialist in all things assistive tech, and we talked about assistive tech and AI. And it was a great conversation around it. I think this is one for podcasters. We talked a lot about the gadgets, the pens, the notebooks, the stuff that's available, but even from an AI perspective, I think you might find it interesting. It's posted right now, homegadgetgeeks.com.
And on the School of Podcasting, episode 1000 is coming up, where I will be where I will be talking about how do you grow your podcast, and I will explain how what is boring and what's not boring, and is it just content, or do I need AI, or is it the marketing? What's the deal? And so there are analogies aplenty on this, because golf seems easy, bowling seems easy, but there's a lot of things when you swinging a golf club. So that will be coming up on Monday. And we'll be here next Saturday with another episode of Ask the Podcast Coach. And Jim's going to talk about AI because we're going to talk about it this week, and I totally forgot.
Okay. Hey, we had 51 at the end of the show. Come earlier, friends. We start at 9:30 Central, 10:30 Eastern. We'll see you next week.
We ran out of music. Oh, no. Now we got to do it over, the whole thing. Oh, doggone it.
Oh, we're starting over. Ask the Podcast Coach for.
That's it. We'll see you next week.
See you guys. Take care.